expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this episode, we got the honor to sit down with Jeannine Burgess and Ben Carroll. Now, Jeannine is an artist and a yoga teacher. She does this amazing mandala artwork. It's very precise, but very colorful and gorgeous. Also, her insect pictures that she does with the mandalas in the background. Guys, I'll link all the ways to find her. Go check her out for sure. Now, the music that you're hearing right now is actually Ben Carroll's music. He is an intuitive sound healer and just does some unbelievable stuff with his voice, with these singing bowls. All the ways, of course, to find him as well will be linked down in the show notes. Along with their links is going to be the way to expand your experience with us here on the show at expandingrealitypodcast.com. That is where links to all the socials, Rockfin, merchandise, all of that stuff can be found there. So let's get to this incredible conversation, guys. On this one, we talk about reconnecting to the deeper parts of ourselves, shifting energies, cosmic cycles, cymatics and geometry and vibrational states, and the dark night of the soul that we're going through right now and these shifting energies. So let's get right to this with Jeannine Burgess and Ben Carroll. All right, ladies and gentlemen, everybody out there in the listening world, an incredibly special episode today. We have Jeannine Burgess and Ben Carroll both here to tag team the awesomeness. Now, both of you are incredibly gifted and you're artists, and you both work with geometry and sacred geometry more specifically in your own ways, and we're going to get into all that because you're both incredibly, like I said, talented and fascinating, and I am truly grateful to have you on. So let's do some introductions. I was raised well, so Jeannine, we'll have you up first.
I'm Jeannine Burgess. I am currently trying to make it as a visual artist. I opened a studio last year, like kind of in the middle of the pandemic, like after making $800 2 months prior for the entire month. So I started just to kind of expand a little bit on creating art, and it kind of just took off. Still trying to make it all work, but there's kind of a long story behind where my paintings came from. But yeah, I make art, I teach some movement, and I have just a general interest in health and wellness and spirituality and all of that.
You're just super grounded. You can tell it in your art, but your head's in the clouds as well with your sacred geometry, with your, I think it's mandalas or mandalas. I can't know how it's pronounced, but you do that.
There's
mandala
a million
art.
Pronunciations.
It's like mandala because it's got the
Mandala,
ALA.
yeah.
Okay. But then, of course, your insects. And that's what drew me to you in the first place. And that's why this is so adorable, by the way. So, Ben, I'd been following you on TikTok for like months, I think. And I'd just been loving your music and everything. And then, Jeannine, I think I liked one of your pictures. Didn't know that you guys were connected at all on Instagram, a totally separate platform. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then you message, and we just started this very cool interaction. I was just like, God, and I was asking you specifically about, I think the cicada one that you did. Absolutely beautiful. Here, for the audio only audience, check the show notes for all the ways, of course, to see this. I'm going to put her art up. For the video audience, this is the painting right here. Isn't that dope? Yeah. So check the show notes for all the ways to find this and more, because you have a whole series that you do on these, and it's incredible. And your the beauty that you find specifically in the color choice that you use, but your style, the way it's very realistic looking, but still very creative and interpretational. I think it's beautiful. And the mandala art in the back, or mandala, however we're doing it, but it's incredible. So you're a wonderful and a beautiful artist, and I'm grateful that you're here to share that with us. Now, Ben, your music, like I said, I'd found you on TikTok, which is a great vehicle, by the way. I don't care how many people want to talk shit about that thing. It's actually really cool. And I think it's a deeper, because we can get into creating your reality and stuff like that. But with TikTok specifically, when you talk about things like algorithms and only the things that you want to appear there, it's kind of like that. You can scale that up to your actual life. Only the things that you want to pay attention to and see are what you're going to, and the seeds you plant are going to pop up in your life. Now, what's really cool, man, is So your music, of course. And one thing I just wanted to compliment you on from a former musician to what the hell you're doing, which is just amazing, is your damn angelic voice, man. And you're the one thing when I hear you, and especially sing, but also play, because you do the Tibetan singing bowls and you have this whole deal, it's incredibly immersive and it's beautiful. But one thing I will say, the first word that comes to mind, which is the greatest compliment I think a musician can get, is the word control. You have this just precision control that's insane, and it's only accented by your range and your melody. So it's fascinating. And so we did also replace the intro song with one of your songs. Thank you so much for letting us do that. But it's beautiful music. And of course, listening audience, that will be linked down in the show notes as well. You get a double dose of absolutely incredible artistry here today. So Ben, if you don't mind, let's get a little bit of your background, because you have a lot of flavor to your story as well.
Sure. So I've been a lifelong musician. These days, I'm facilitating kind of sound healing work through with groups. I prefer to work with group energy because it's really, really powerful. And before the world went crazy, I was traveling all over New England and down the East Coast, doing a lot of in-person events in like yoga studios and stuff like that. And then once the world went crazy, I've been doing it online, and online has been going phenomenally well. And I started incorporating different elements like binaural beats and synths to go along with the singing bowls and voice. So that's been going really, really well. But before I was doing this, I was actually in a hard rock band signed to Universal Records, touring all over. So it's quite a contrast. and yeah, it's an interesting story how I got from here to there. But these days I'm in Maine doing sound healing, and very happy to be doing that. And so excited to be here with you, man, because I've been actually listening to your podcast for like the past month or 6 weeks or so since I actually liked one of your posts or something, or wrote a message and you responded immediately. And I was like, oh, cool. But Jeannine actually turned me on to you. And I was like, so I started listening. I was like, oh, this is actually a great podcast. So I've been actually listening to you quite a lot the past 6 weeks, which is really cool.
Absolutely grateful. I can't tell you what that means to me, and so sweet. And yes, the way that all three of us came together is insane. Like that connection independently. Oh, okay. Yeah. And it's just a beautiful triad of just awesomeness going on here. And I'm grateful for the compliments and the kind words. Thank you so much. So how did you two meet?
We met at a summer solstice event in 2016. Yeah, and this is the first time we've ever done anything like this together, doing a podcast together. So it's really cool.
In 2016, you released a record. Were you out promoting that or playing that?
That wasn't out yet when we met.
Not when we met, but then we had our first date like a month and a half later, and it was, I think you had your launch like the day after.
The day after our first date.
That's crazy.
My first album in like the sound healing style came out then, because I had a lot of albums out before then. But yeah.
So Multidimensional Voice is the name of that, by the way. Again, linked in the show notes, guys. Go check that thing out. That's so cool. And so, man, big year for everything. So, Jeannine, what got you into the artwork that you do now? Did this progress from a younger style that you did, or how did that come about?
I kind of just by the time I could hold a pencil, I knew I really loved art. And both my parents were kind of art and science blended. Like they always sort of created stuff. So it was always in my world. And I always knew I wanted to do art, and it kind of progressed, and I always doodled and just made stuff. And I started college for it. I was going to be like an elementary school art teacher, and then I learned how much they made and it just kind of fell away. I took a long hiatus from higher education, went and got my yoga teacher training and just started teaching movement and doing other things, and put art on the back burner, but always just had like a sketchbook. And I taught myself how to knit. Like I was always making stuff. And then I had a breakup in 2014 that I was determined not to go in like the depression hole.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
And yeah. I decided I had a piece of plywood in my attic, and I thought I'd make a big painting, paint the plywood. And I was going to like just do the heart chakra to heal my broken heart. And then I remember staring at it. It was on the floor in my spare bedroom. And I just was like, well, if I'm going to do the chakras, I might as well just start from the ground up. So it started in May 2014, lasted. I was on summer break. I was in school for health science, which I ultimately got a degree in, but I was on like summer hiatus from that. So I spent the entire summer just doing yoga and making art. And I did this entire chakra series in 3 months. And sort of stylistically, they're not as advanced as the ones that I'm doing now. But like I was banging out one every week or two over the course of 3 months. And it was a really transformative summer. And so they're huge. If you like go and look at my Instagram or some of my pictures, they're 41 inches. I don't know how I settled on that, but that's what they are now. And that just kind of opened up this whole world. I never wanted to really show my art, but after I finished this series, I knew that they needed to be out in the world. And it kind of opened up a lot of doors. I got my first gallery show a few months after I finished them. And I was like, well, maybe I've got something here. So I just started. I don't think I even learned about the chakras in detail when I made them. I was kind of learning as I went. And then the following year, I kind of dove into more of the chakra system, more geometry, started to get a little bit more deliberate with my geometry. That's still a learning process. But one of the best ways to learn geometry, sacred geometry, is to actually create it. So I've started just playing off of all of that and building. And I still love making the huge paintings. I still do like a few a year, but I've started branching out.
And especially with your household, like the inspiration, you just look at your background here, you think of, Ben over there making some incredible new music, and then you're in there painting. It's just the energy in your space has to be just unbelievable. And I like back to what you said about your parents. It's interesting too, because that right when you said your background, your folks were so juxtaposed as far as idealistically, it definitely shows in your artwork. And this is what's so cool, because your mandalas are incredibly gorgeous and creatively orchestrated, but they're very precise. There's a lot of precision in there. Same with your insect work. And this is right when you said it, I was like, yes, because it's beautiful and artistic, but you have this science piece that's very anatomically correct, like down to like you're a field journalist that's studying insects. That's what it looks like. But you have this art.
I'm still trying.
They're totally amazing.
Because I'm an art school dropout, so.
Well, good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good. I'm a music school dropout.
Exactly. Yeah, and I never went to college. We're all doing great. And I have a lot of thoughts on this, because a lot of these researchers that have written these incredibly cool books on the shelf back here, they've come up with the most incredible ideas and observations about the world around them. And they always say this caveat, like it's going to denote their value as far as their input on any situation that they're speaking in. But in my mind, it's the reverse. And I always point this out. And that's why I said good right away. Good. That's what makes you so creative and original, because you're not put in this box, like Ruth Mendelsohn. I don't know if you have ever heard of her. Check out her episode. It's back in the catalog. She is a professor over at Berkeley. Just the first female to be in the scoring department. She does the scores for Jane Goodall's audiobook and podcast, and unbelievable, but same thing. She was like, I'm just, self-taught, and I didn't want to learn music and all that stuff, and same thing. And so, but now all incredibly successful, right? And so I think that there's a lot of beauty in that, because you just get out of your way, or don't let the matrix infect the process, with this like
absolutely
rigid ideology, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben, with your music, what made you make the switch from the rock and metal that you were doing, signed to Universal, probably just girls, 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 and blow everywhere, and then now you are, slapping bowls with a stick? What's going on? What was that transition like?
It wasn't an overnight transition. when that band went to hiatus, I moved up to Maine, where we both are now, and just kind of started like exploring different things, and I discovered singing bowls, and what really, and I bought the bowls and started singing with them. But really what it was what you were just talking about. I was really interested in just creating music from a space where I wasn't running on muscle memory, wasn't running on things that I knew how to do really well. Like, cause I went to Berkeley for guitar, and I spent, a decade playing hundreds of shows a year on guitar. And I was like, to the point, like I felt like I pick up the guitar and I just like play the same exact things because my fingers are programmed to do that. And I wanted to get into music where I was actually just flowing with it and allowing the creation to happen, the melodies to happen, and doing it with instruments that I really had no idea what I was going to do with. They're obviously not very hard to play, so it's not like I had to learn how to play them. But I just, started. It literally became my morning meditation. I would sing with the bowls for however long, anywhere from 20 minutes to hours, and it just kind of grew out of that. Yeah, it was completely accidental, and I actually did not want to do it in front of people. It's like, I'm never doing this
thing you don't talk about
anyone ever. It's mortifying. But that obviously didn't work out so well. But yeah, it was free form exploration, like just moving into a space of doing things without any idea of what I was doing, just total free form exploration.
It's incredible. And you're just so connected. And so I will disagree with you that they're easy to play. I have a couple of them and they sound like a kid with pots in the, sink, in the kitchen, right? No, you flow with it. There's a total, and it's physical. And that's the thing that's interesting about both of you, is you're both so well versed in this hemisync idea, because music, artistic, but also very mathematical. Your art as well, like we'd already talked about, incredibly beautiful and ornate and original, but also got some science in there, and you have some left brain stuff going on. So it sounds like that you two both have really balanced the ideas through your techniques in the style of the things that you do in your niche. And it's just beautiful to watch you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing what y'all do next, and this is just really, really cool. So I did want to talk to you guys about reconnecting to the deeper parts of yourselves and how you feel that that resonates with each one of you. So Jeannine, what do you think?
I am honestly struggling with it lately. Painting really helps me. The world is kind of crazy right now, and I think we're both empathic, so we absorb everything that's going on. It's hard to go to the store because everybody's just nervous and crazy, and you just kind of pick up on it. And then I come home and I have all this anxiety, and I'm like, where is this coming from? And then you have to recognize that half of it's not even your own. Artwork, just immersing in shapes and colors, really helps to turn my brain off. When I get in my studio and I paint, it just shuts down the thinking brain, and it's amazing. And he talks about it all the time, where it just gets you out of that sort of clutter of your conscious mind and deep into something else. So put on some music and go to town.
Well, plus the geometric patterns that you're working with is the underlying structure of your artwork is just, the sacred geometry. I feel like that in itself has a way of expanding your reality.
Nice. I was waiting for it. I was like, oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Yes.
I wasn't even going there intentionally. I stopped because I'm doing this and I didn't even mean to.
It just flows out. I don't know. I know. It's great. Thank you so much.
Those geometric patterns, are part of the underlying structure of the physical space that we live in, the energetic patterning. So I think working with that has a way of kind of tying back into the question that you asked. I don't remember what it was. But,
connecting to higher self.
Yeah, connecting to higher self. I feel like that whether you're actually drawing it or whether you're looking at that, when you're looking at beautiful sacred geometry, it has a way of reconnecting you to those higher parts of yourself, to kind of just waking up to the more expanded parts of reality. And the same with music, because music is vibration in holding those kind of forms, especially with what I'm doing with playing drones. When you see cymatics and you see those beautiful patterns that are forming, those aren't so much being held by playing a lot of different notes. You can get some cool stuff going that way, but it's when you have those nice long drawn out notes that you get the pattern starting to form and hold. And I feel like, whether it's actual physical shapes or just the vibrational shapes, it has a really potent way of kind of reorganizing your consciousness.
You're recalibrating.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
the sounds recalibrate, but then the structure, the geometry really is the fabric of the universe. And I know, like, sometimes I close my eyes and I just kind of see shapes and sort of geometry and like nets, but a lot when, like, during a sound journey, the bowls kind of, you can start seeing the cymatic shapes sort of in your visual cortex. It's really interesting.
Yep. Definitely my experience as well.
No, it's amazing. So will you explain cymatics for the audience, please? Yeah.
Yes. So cymatics is basically vibration showing itself in the way of in physical form. And a video that you've probably seen online, one of the ways that's popular to show it is when you take a sheet of metal and attach a speaker to it and play pure tone frequencies, like what a singing bowl makes, through the speaker, vibrating the sheet of metal, and sprinkle some kind of powder onto the sheet of metal. And as you hit specific resonant frequencies, you get beautiful patterns that form with all these particles moving and flowing and holding the form. And that is the way of showing a way of displaying cymatics. But cymatics is basically the underlying geometry within vibration. And all matter, because all matter is vibration.
Exactly. And I'm reminded of course, your shirt and The Flower of Life by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And that's just such a cool read. And like you said, it's the shape, it's the fundamental shapes of the universe. You talk about like the flower of life and things, and all of that's laid out. And there's actually, places on the earth where these things can be demonstrated, as well as in utero. The egg splits from 1 to 2, and it becomes the flower of life in that 8 pattern. That's the formation of all of life. And then with that, I'm going to put a video as you were explaining, and I'll put that in. So audio only audience, go check out the video linked in the show notes. And that cymatic pattern, have you thought about doing something like that, Ben, with your show, like a live thing to where that's going on, to where you show, like, as you hit these notes, what's occurring physically?
I don't know how to do that. There was someone that mentioned it that was interested in doing that with me at some point, but it never went beyond the mentioning it point. So it hasn't happened yet, and I don't know how to make it happen.
It would probably be like a performance piece where it'd be both of you interacting together. So like Jeannine, maybe you can be over there painting, off to the side, and you have homeboy sprinkling, salt or whatever on the speaker, and then Ben, you're just giving it hell, just angel, and just making it happen. It'd be a really cool thing to see. It certainly would be, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk
with water.
Oh shit, and water too. I didn't even think about that.
That's another way that they do it a lot is with water, and then they film the patterns of the water. So there's some really cool stuff on Instagram with some people that do that all the time.
Dude, there really is, and the one I'm thinking about is where it's coming out of the hose, and they put, I guess, a speaker behind it, and they're filming the hose that's pouring, and as they play different notes, it goes to like stairs, like in midair. Yeah. It's like what? It's crazy. Yeah. All right, so shifting gears just a little bit, let's talk about shifting energies. And I'm really interested in these cosmic cycles, and it does seem to be like we are doing a major energy shift right now. So what does shifting energies mean to you guys? Ben, let's start with you, bud.
To me, well, it's quite, I've been talking about for years that, we're moving into a space where the energies that we've been subjected to put it simply, are starting to shift. Our solar system is starting to move into a field of higher energy, and that is affecting everything, because everything is energy, including, I guess you could tie it back to cymatics, including the patterning of our society, the patterning of our consciousness, the patterning of everything is starting to shift, and you can see that reflected out in the world so much. And I've been talking about this for years, and just then to experience the past couple of years, that's just and where it's become so obvious that things are shifting significantly. And like when a somatic pattern shifts, you go through a period where you've been working with this beautiful pattern in your nice resonant frequencies that are holding it, but then you get to a point where it starts to shift, and as it starts to shift, you move into a place of chaos because it's the rearrangement. It's not the world is ending, where the way things used to be just doesn't work anymore, and until you get to the point where you hit that next resonant frequency, the ride can be a little bit bumpy. But then when you get to the point where you're able to integrate and work with the higher frequencies, everything snaps in and starts flowing again. I think that's exactly what's going on right now in the world and within our society and in the whole solar system.
Jeannine, what do you think about the shifting energies right now? Have you even personally noticed perhaps like your art evolving in a different manner, just simply in response to these shifting energies?
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really even thought that it's in a response. It just sort of, art evolves just like anything. The more time you spend on it, the more it evolves. But yeah, I think the need to go deeper and sort of more specific. It just seems important to create meaning a little bit more behind a lot of these things. Yeah, I think just in general, the shifting energies, I think we can all feel it. And we were even talking like time is changing
yes,
too.
Right?
Yeah.
What did they call it? The quickening. Is that what you've noticed?
Yeah.
Is time speeding up? That's
Absolutely
crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I've noticed different stuff with the moon as well. Have you guys noticed what the moon's doing?
No.
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so from my perspective, I noticed this about a couple months ago, and I told the wife this, and I was like, "Have you noticed that the moon doesn't go?" Because I knew exactly where we are, right? Oriented wise. I just have a great proprioception. I know where I'm at, right? And so with I knew where the moon should come up at, and it's way more west whenever it's a new moon, and then it gradually sets or rises in the east rather. A lot later or whatever, but what it's been doing lately, and it used to be dead on, even with the swabble or whatever. The moon or the sun usually travels quite a bit, but the moon really doesn't. But lately, I've been noticing it's going way more from north to south orientation rather than more of an east to west rising and setting. And so I've been seeing this like shift. And so the new moon is way more southwest and the new full moon is way more northeast. And it's this like crazy thing. So just check it out. If you think about it, kind of give yourself like where it normally is and then look around. It'll be shifting just a little bit. It's got kind of I'm going over here now. It's interesting, man. And then we talk about like pole shifts and plasma apocalypses and stuff like that. Have you guys heard of the plasma apocalypse?
You're talking about this, like the solar flash?
So there's a solar flash, but this has to do with more that our Earth is like a toroidal and that the energy comes out of the north and then a giant hole opens up literally and then plasma comes out and like just obliterates everything. I'm going to send you a video. It's so cool. It's on YouTube. It's like an hour and a half long, but it's totally worth the watch. It's a lot.
Sounds orgasmic.
It's definitely that. Yeah, it's just bad shit, and that's why I love it. And then it relates to like when the reset happens, like giants are here, and that's where Devil's Tower is. Perhaps it's like this old tree, and it's just really really cool. So let's talk about the dark night of the soul that humanity is having right now. And this does have to do with these shifts in this cycle that we're talking about. So first of all, what is a dark night of the soul?
I think really simply, it's just when sort of everything goes wrong and you have to evaluate what really means, what things really mean to you and what's important. And, I feel like I had a few of my own personal ones. Like my dad died when I was young and I kind of had to go through this sort of reevaluation. My life kind of went left, trajectory from where it was going to, and it's like, I think just when everything crumbles and it's like things that you thought were real and true just no longer apply. So I think everybody's kind of going through that right now.
And it's really oddly named because it's real poetic the way it's named, right? It's a dog
I love
night of
it.
the soul. But what it really is more like a tits up of the soul. It's like everything goes to shit,
totally.
right? Yeah. So Ben, what have you experienced with that?
Well, I think what's ultimately going, it's going on such a mass level because of the shifting that's going on. A lot of the things that have been, are kind of like go-to comfort level zones, places of being, the ways that we exist in this reality, and the illusions that we've held in front of ourselves, which have been massive, are starting to teeter and are starting to not make sense anymore. And things that used to make you feel perfectly comfortable, for some reason, that shifting energy inside you, it just doesn't feel like it used to. And so you start seeking out different things. And then, we have all this crazy stuff that's coming to the surface. There's all these, all the conspiracy theories or whatever you want to call them that are actually I know you've been reading about for years just from listening to your podcast, and I've been reading about them for years. But then to see them to start come to the surface into the mass consciousness where everybody's starting to wake up to this a little bit, and whether or not everybody believes it, it's being a little bit more openly discussed and being people becoming aware of these things on a far greater level than had ever been before. And ultimately, I think it's just the happening this way on a mass scale, just because, the shifting energies are kind of moving the darker energies, the more potent, the denser energies, positive or negative, you need both. So it's not really positive or negative. It's just a density that has been lingering in ourselves and in our society that was able to be there because of the lower frequencies. But as we're shifting frequencies up, these things are coming to the surface like oil and water. And, I think ultimately, as we're shifting ourselves up collectively, these things are kind of no longer a match, which is why they're just kind of coming to the surface, and things are getting crazy because they are coming to the surface, and it's like, we're all going to die. The world's going to end. But, ultimately, I think it's a really, really good thing. And I know on me personally, on a personal level, all the worst stuff that ever happened to me in my life, and I've been fortunate that it hasn't been anything like really bad, but all the worst stuff that ever happened to me in my life has always also been the best stuff that's ever happened to me in my life, because it's ultimately led me to the paths that have made the largest, most significant differences and massive positive impacts.
It's always a catalyst for something bigger, something better.
Yeah.
And that's what I think this whole thing was in 2020. Definitely conspiratorial. We can all look back and say, yeah, some shit went down for real. But I think that on a scale out, because that's what I've been doing a lot lately, is just shooting way out and looking at things from really far away on a big level. And whenever we talk about like the dark and light forces here, dense and less dense energies, I resonate with you saying it that way, just simply because it doesn't show like a hierarchical kind of a thing. It's just, that's just what that is. But I think also it's a great motivator, because feeling like shit is a great motivator. It's like, I don't want to do this, I mean, Bill Hicks had this joke about homeless people, and he was, and it's horrible, my heart goes out to him, but his point was that, a homeless guy was like, hey, do you have any money? And the guy was like, yeah, I do. It feels great. And he said, man, give me $1. You don't know what it's like to be broke. And he said, yeah, I do. That's why I work. Right. And so you have to know this like other side of things to be able to get out of it and then break away. With this mass consciousness shift, it seems like it's all at once. It's astrological, it's global, it's spiritual, and that's what it feels like mainly, is that it's very, very spiritual. Now, conspiratorially, the cabal or the other side or whatever, again, looking at it further out, it looks like, I mean, of course it's on purpose. They're like, fine. I mean, they're just bored. They're bored. They're never going to do the work. So we're going to lock them down. Joe Thomas's really great assessment on that was that was their way of instituting shadow work. Like, you purposefully have to go home and deal with your shit because we're all moving, we're all ready to go on. And so this darker side that's been playing this role for a long time is tired of it too. It's kind of what it feels like. It's like, that's why it's so overt. You look at things like the Travis Scott concert, you look at what's going on, and I think politics is all politics. It's all fake. It's wrestling to me. I'm just
everything
like, okay.
is a show right now. It's crazy.
Is.
Everything that's in the news right now is just theater.
But that's the point. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's overt. Yeah. It's so ridiculous that you have to see it for what it is. And that's why even the cabal, whenever they're going cabals deep on it, they're like, this is crazy. And they're like, please wake up. Just please get your shit together. Just understand, just move forward, please. Because they don't want to do this shit anymore either. It's kind of my thought on it. But it's a great motivator. And it is a massive thing that's happening now. And what's really cool is I'm excited for the next generation. Like the people that are waking up, like you guys right now, like our age, what we're doing right now, those are the folks that are having babies that are going to be ushering in this new thing and really getting to, reap the fruits of the labor of that, which is wonderful. And I'm grateful to be a part of the one that lays down the foundation. So what do you think is short term, what we can expect just globally? I mean, I'm asking you to Nostradamus this thing just a little bit, but Jeannine, what do you think? Just predict it for us. We won't hold you to it if it doesn't come true. But if it does, we get some big high fives coming your way.
I mean, I think that we're in some serious motivation right now. And, someone once said to me that if you want to go somewhere, you need both because, try starting your car with only positive energy.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great point.
It's not going to happen. You need that, the dichotomy of the mixture of both, the duality that we live in as a motivating factor to get us to get out of our comfort zones to actually make the progress. And I think, ultimately, I think it's kind of individualized where we can kind of create our own reality. And if, as we are able to do that, we can kind of pattern out what we are holding in our core to kind of reflect that around us. And when we do that on a collective scale, we start to do that, not even all of us together, but just some people, when we get together and we actually hold intention and we work in that way, you can start to shift things. And I think ultimately the zoom out massive scale shifts are kind of individualized. And, it's not like we all live in the same exact version of reality and we're on one set timeline. I think it's vastly more complicated than that, and probably vastly more complicated than the human brain can even comprehend. But I think, me, like you said earlier, I'm an optimist, and I think amazing things are coming. I think that this is what we need to shift out of this place, what so many people have called the prison planet, to shift out of feeling trapped in jobs that are meaningless and in a monetary system that is enslaving us to the bills we pay and struggling to make ends meet. And, such a vast difference in treatment of the wealthy and the poor, and the way that is dividing even further. It's just more of that stuff coming to the surface. It's going to amplify until it pops. And what that looks like, I think, is kind of what it looks like when it pops is individual. And it's probably not going to be a nice, clean, pretty pop, but maybe it will be for.
But you nailed it with the analogy of the moving sand between patterns in the frequencies. Mm-hmm. You nailed it. That's exactly what it feels like it's in right now. Now it feels like we're leveling off. It feels like definitely a beautiful pattern is emerging. Jeannine, do you share our chronic optimism?
I'd like to. I'm kind of, the classic artist. I'm a little misanthropic, but yeah, I think the cymatic analogy really nails it, and it resonates a lot, and it makes sense. And I think the more things shake up, the more people are going to be shaken into the places that they need to be in order to create this pattern that ultimately comes about.
The Cymatics example, the more I think about it, you're absolutely right, Ben. It's the perfect analogy for this. And it's the perfect visual representation of this. Because then exactly in Jeannine, to what you were saying, I visualized one piece of that sand, one grain of that sand being an individual that's on this plane. And all of us collectively are what being shaken up. Now there's some interim, there's some, I guess, no man's land in between the patterns, right? And that's where a lot of these folks that are just super lost find themselves. But exactly what you said. I think it's really beginning to reorganize in a beautiful new way. The more I think about it, that's like the metaphor I'm going to be using forever now to describe this shift, because it makes the most sense. That is
exactly why I do the work that I do, and why I ultimately decided to step out and work with people, because I think, we, each and every single one of us, can have a massive positive impact on the world because of the stuff I was just talking about, how we are powerful creators, and we step into that place, we are able to do massive good in the world. And, I think the more people realize that and start doing that, it doesn't even have to be holding the same exact belief systems. It's just the vibration you're putting out into the world. The underlying aspect of that is so powerful. The human thought patternings behind it, I think, are kind of trivial, and they don't really matter as much as the vibrational resonance that you're holding and working with. Again,
you just tacked on another beautiful metaphor to the already beautiful liar poor metaphor. Like, you couldn't beautiful it up, and I just can't even talk about it. But Jeannine, what do you think the next step for all of us is, just collectively?
Really just kind of piggybacking on what he just said, just vibing a little bit more, a little higher, working together, letting go of shadows. I think we're in that stage of the deep shadows, and I think collectively we all have to deal with our shit, and then we can move through and move on. And it's like a sloughing off. I had an image. I don't go to a ton of sound journeys, but when he was doing a lot of in-person sound healings in studios, I'd go to some occasionally, and I don't get like these massive visuals, or some people see colors and it's just like fireworks. But I do have some experiences that really stuck with me. And one of them was, it was like this squeezing out, like everything was being pressed through like a colander or something. And it was just like a removal of what doesn't serve. I use that imagery a lot, like when I teach yoga, just letting go of what doesn't serve. And it's just sort of this release and sort of filtering out of all the sludge that we just accumulate in these 3D bodies, and becoming, I don't want to say pure, but that seems like the best fitting word right now, but just sort of becoming closer to like a light body without being perfect.
And then beautiful metaphor on your part, because what I visualized when you were saying that is like an elevator going up to like a grate and a floor, and we're all standing on this elevator, but it gets more chaotic because people are scared. Oh my God, we're coming up to this grate. And as you pass through it, yeah, you leave a lot of crap behind, but you ascend to a much more beautiful level. And it's like this splat. It's like chaotic, but it's also necessary and beautiful.
Yeah.
So again, you guys are just riddled with beautiful imagery and metaphors, and it's just awesome the way you guys explain stuff. So I can't go an episode without asking somebody about aliens. So what the hell do you think's going on with that?
Ben is an alien, so
awesome.
I've definitely
finally first contact for me. Thank God. I was waiting on it. Okay.
I've definitely had lots of experiences my whole life just with, reality being extremely pliable. Mm-hmm. But, aliens, I think, certainly do exist. Maybe some exist as physical beings, maybe some exist as multidimensional beings that are popping in and out of this existence. But I don't even know where to take that. But yeah, I've had experiences with extraterrestrial entities, or entities that aren't me, that come in when I'm doing sound work and help with that.
I've seen them.
And it's interesting. You just kind of take it, and it is what it is. And the higher part of myself is well aware of that, and working with that, and working with them. And a lot of times I don't feel like I'm an Octorian, but a lot of times I'm working with the Octorians in the work that I do. And I don't even know why, and I don't even know how. On a conscious level, I'm not 100% sure, but I know what I've seen is people bifurcating and actually being in a kind of chamber in their ship, and actually having work done on them. And it's very interesting looking. It's almost like a geometric pattern on the floor, and kind of like it's so hard to describe stuff like that. And I've had a lot of experiences, but I always struggle to put them to words, because it's almost like looking at technology that we don't even have a human concept or word to put it to.
Yeah.
So it's like, when there was ancient civilizations and they saw flying crafts, it wasn't, we see a spaceship, we see a flying bird, and that's kind of like what it feels like to try to describe some of this stuff. It's like, how do you put it into words? But yeah, I firmly believe that the aliens do exist, whatever you want to call them. Some may be very much flesh and blood, real third dimensional, fourth dimensional beings, and many, many, many more, I believe, are interdimensional beings. However, whatever that means to you, beings that are able to work with us, especially when we raise our frequency up to actually meet them, to actually be able to work with us in different ways. And I don't necessarily understand it, but I've had experiences with it.
I'm just going to go ahead and assume that this was when the music that you're doing now, not when you were basically like a backup dancer for Chuck E. Cheese, right? When you're just standing there on autopilot. It didn't occur in that vibe with you. It probably was in the stuff that you're working with now, right?
Yes, with what I was talking about. Absolutely.
That's so cool. And Jeannine, you said you've seen them?
Well, it was during a sound journey. And I think we kind of connected it after, because I had this really interesting experience where I was, laying down, eyes closed. So it was with my third eye. And I think there were like maybe 9 to 12 people in the room. And one guy was like snoring really bad, and he ended up like having a really amazing, profound experience when we talked about it at the end. But I saw these, were they 2 or 3 beings? But they were like very tall, very cloaked, hooded, but very like paper white face, but I couldn't actually see the face. And they were going around the room and they were tending to this guy that was snoring a lot. And they were like, I called them energetic doulas. They were basically just kind of guiding the energy in the room in a way that created a more like a vortex or something, but they were really participating, but they were in like a different energy dimension or something, and I kind of like, I drew the face afterwards and kind of looked it up, just to see like, and he was saying like, I think I work with the Arcturians, and so I'm pretty sure that was them. And it was just kind of interesting.
That is so cool. And we do talk a lot about vibration when we talk about UFOs and aliens and things like that. So, because there are a lot of hardline nuts and bolts people, and that's fine. Like nuts and bolts meaning that they just come from other planets and that's all that they can be. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've kind of reached a point with the research here, and us on the show, we take a strong look at that it's probably all interconnected in some way, but it has a lot to do. And this is a more mature, version of this that I've come across lately after talking to Kathleen Martin. She kind of locked this idea in that is very vibrational. Because if you then think of it that way, then hypnotic states can get you there, psychedelic experiences can get you there, music can get you there, and it's all got to do with the state that you exist in, right? And you access these higher dimensions, which would then lend to, they're not just entities coming from other planets, if that's what they are at all, or if that's another version of them, that there is an interdimensional or a higher vibrational component to all of this. And that's what's so cool about the things that you guys as artists are able to do. You put people in this state. You guide the energy. I'm a big fan of that. Spirit guides and entities are just you. They're different higher expressions of you. And so really that was you, both of you, walking around and helping the guy with sleep apnea, over and guiding the energy in a higher level. It's cool. It's like this, you're like this beacon, Ben. When you start playing, everything comes down. They're like, all right, we're just going to go hang out with Ben and Jeannine for a little while. This is dope. I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I think it depends on how far you zoom out too, because, when you zoom out, the oneness of everything. But, where we are right now in this experience, I think it's kind of the third density, the third dimension, whatever you choose to call it. I think it's a very unique place where we're actually kind of cut off from the higher dimensions. But as you are shifting up in consciousness, and I think we are right now, and that's why there's so many people that are starting to have access to channeling and access to experiences with interdimensional beings and stuff like that, because we're starting to kind of get into that new patterning. Some people more than others, where those states of multidimensionality are starting to kind of crack open in all these different things that are starting to come in, being able to access the Akashic records and all that stuff. I think is ultimately exactly what it is symptoms of the multidimensional shifting that's going on. And, I think, with the aliens, do they come from other planets, or are they multidimensional? I think it's probably both, because I think we're looking at a very human beings, not necessarily we in the room, the virtual room. Human beings tend to look at reality as very one-dimensional, like we are here and this is what's going on and here is time and here's where I'm moving and there's one thing. But I think, I know that it's so much more complicated than that, that there are multiple timelines, that we are massively strong creator beings, and also multidimensional beings that are not just existing in this here and now, but have multiple lifetimes in different dimensions. And we can tap into those and experience things from those. And, tap into things like the Akashic records and actually pull in information from different lifetimes and different experiences, as well as whatever else is recorded there. It's so complicated and mind-blowing, and like it's amazing, when you start waking up to this stuff. It's like, there's so much more in the world. That's why I'm optimistic, because I'm not just staring at this, not just staring at the bad stuff that's going on in the world, but there's like a cartoon I saw once where there's like a person that's like sees like a war going on, and there's a wall, and you climb up a little bit, and you have like a view of something that's better, and then you climb up. I don't remember. I totally can't picture it in my head, but I think that's exactly what's going on. As we shift our consciousness, we actually are able to access some really amazing things, and it's hard not to be optimistic once you've experienced that stuff.
Dude, could not agree more. I have had the analogy lately, especially to what you were saying about how this place is a bit cut off. I completely agree that it does feel that way. It feels like we're in kind of like a dog park, not to reduce us to dogs, because dogs are great. We don't deserve them anyway, by the way. But,
yeah, you gotta watch where you're walking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And again, metaphor for life. Nice job. So it's like we have this area or this space or this environment or this simulation, whatever you want to call it. What it feels like here, and again, just the analogy I was doing to wrap my own mind around this concept the other day, because I'm really focused on lately the concept of consensus reality. And Ben, you touched on this with us all having a very specific experience here and it being very personal to us. And I completely agree. That's the direction I've been going with it lately. And then, I've been on these panels and stuff with these folks that just have incredible ideas, but none of them are the same. They're the same-ish. And they have kind of the same flavors to them, but all of them are incredibly unique. And any one thing can be swapped out for anything else, but it's very personal to them. So to explain this, what I wrapped my mind around lately was explaining it kind of like that we are at a daycare or a babysitter, and our parents, who are our higher souls, who really kind of that we're with most of the time, are just going out to dinner for the night, or they're at a party, and they're just dropped us off in this area to be safe and cared for. There's rules here. We evolve, we learn, so we're young souls in this analogy. And all of us here are just kind of telling each other what our mom and dad's house is like, and what our beliefs are, what we watch on TV or whatever, our equivalent to our pastimes and beliefs and things. But all of them are different, but all of them are also exactly 100% correct. Not only are they right, like right, but they're correct, right. And so this is what it means to be so personal here for you. That's why there's no real judgment at the end. We know this with NDE cases that come back and say, I wasn't judged by anyone other than me. Like, I did the judging. Everything else was incredibly loving. So all of that takes place in this mental space, right? And so this is a way that I've been explaining it lately, but it does feel like that detached. And so in your example, it feels a little bit like we're on our own, because for this example, again, it feels like our soul family or our parents, who we can rely on and feel connected to, have just kind of taken a break from us for the evening. We're being pains in the ass in the spiritual realm, and they're like, just go drop them off on Earth for the evening, and we're going to go catch a flick. It's what it feels like. And then, of course, we have different age groups in this place, which I would equate to spiritual maturity, perhaps, or just spiritual awareness. Some people just want to be told what to do, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. There's a place here in this universe for that, and it serves as a compass for what we're not, what we don't resonate with, right? And so yes, I love the hell out of both you guys. I could talk to y'all forever, I'm pretty sure. So let's do some fun ones here, and then we'll wrap it up, okay? So Jeannine, we're going into a new world. We're going into a new Earth. You can take anything you want. You can leave anything you want. What is one thing that you would change about the new planet, the new dimension that we're going to?
One thing I would change.
Yeah, about anything in your reality. Is there something that you've seen that's just kind of like, we could do without that? Here's your opportunity to do that. It's kind of like in that movie Hitchhiker's Guide when they make the new planet, and he's like, did you want anything changed, This is your opportunity for that.
Honestly, sometimes the human body is really gross.
Oh, okay.
And
There's some people that make a lot of money out of the things we find gross. Yeah.
I don't know. I think, I would just make it a little bit more simple.
Okay. I like it.
A little easier to drive.
That's a great analogy. Okay. Ben, what about you?
I wasn't even thinking about it from my perspective.
So from your perspective, you could change anything you want. You could turn like park benches into sound bowls, and that's just it.
Well,
That's all.
I think what I would change is the way that we are. The whole prison planet aspect, the monetary system, the way that we have to struggle so hard to survive and feel so disconnected. I feel like, having a little bit more connection to the higher parts of ourselves and creating a little bit more flow so that we don't feel like we're on a prison planet and feel like we have a little bit more control, which I think is where we're going. So I think we're manifesting that anyways.
Interesting, and I agree with you. And I like this. I like the. I've never resonated really with the prison planet idea. Now, I do consider myself more of like Charlie Robinson calls a conspiracy analyst, not a conspiracy theorist. I like checking them out. I don't absorb the negative energy from it, but it's fun, And so mine is that the customer's always right. I think that needs to go out the window. That's over. I need to get that shit gone. Because being in the customer service industry for years, I can tell you that it's just an excuse to treat people like shit. And it's horrible, right? Okay. Well, all of this can actually be achieved in this lifetime, which is great. Jeannine, we're going to have to work on yours, probably a series of diapers or something. But it is entirely possible. And mine too.
Start to move into a light-based diet.
Yeah,
absolutely. Go out there and sun your genitals. I haven't sunned my balls yet, but my wife keeps telling me to do it. I just haven't brought myself to do it yet. I don't need, we live in the country. I don't need my good old boy neighbor walking by being like, that boy ain't right. But it's apparently incredibly beneficial, and it's 15 minutes of my time, and I think I may try it. So maybe we'll just make a pact to all go out and sun our genitals today. If you're listening to this, spend 15 minutes with your junk in the sun, and it'll do you some good. So you guys are absolutely incredible. I think that we're probably going to wrap it up on this one. I could talk to you forever, but for now, let's wrap it up because I'm ready to go order a painting from you, Jeannine, and then Ben to put your music back on. I'm sick of not hearing it right now. So again, guys, all the ways to find Jeannine Burgess and Ben Carroll will be located down in the show notes. Y'all go over and show them some love. Allow the beauty that they bring to this world to bring some beauty to your world. Thanks again, guys, for listening. Thank y'all so much for joining me.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you so much.
I want to give a huge shout out to Jeannine and Ben for joining me on the show. Absolutely incredible people. Just two of my favorite artists in general. Just his music, her artwork, and paintings. It's just a beautiful combination, guys. So I hope you all could feel the energy on that as well. Make sure that you go down in the show notes and check out all of the ways to experience their art for yourself. You will not be disappointed. The music that you're hearing right now is by a good buddy of mine, Vinny the Saint. Check the show notes for his link as well. He's got a bunch of new music coming out. He's on documentaries everywhere. Vinny is killing it. Y'all go show him some love. If you're in the love showing mood, check the show notes for our website as well. So expandingrealitypodcast.com, and that's how you can expand your experience with us here on the show. And if you want to do so, it's linked all down there. You got a lot of links down there to pick from, but go down there and check all that stuff out. It's all good stuff. So go out into this beautiful, beautiful place, whatever the fuck this is, guys, and y'all just pick up a piece of litter, get out of the left-hand lane, of course, buy somebody in line around you, near you, whatever, a coffee, a meal, a water, book a stamp, something super simple. It makes a massive difference on the collective, and the vibrations ripple out. And that's an amazing way to live your life. Also, while you're doing that, just go ahead and be nice to every entity, human, animal, anybody that you come across. Open doors for people, chivalry is not dead. Make sure that you grow where you're planted. That's very important. Do with what you can where you are at. Tend your garden, guys. And above all of that stuff and beyond anything else, y'all go out into this beautiful, beautiful place, whatever the fuck it is, and y'all just be good to one another. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.